Have you noticed how some warnings arrive without a voice? Not as words. Not as messages. Not even as dreams you can clearly remember. They arrive as strange feelings that refuse to leave. A sudden urge to change your route. A name that keeps appearing where it should not. A moment when your heart begins racing for no reason at all. You tell yourself it is nothing. You tell yourself you are imagining things. But what if the very thing you keep dismissing is the reason you are still standing here today? What if someone connected to your destiny has been trying to reach you from beyond what your eyes can see, and tonight is the first time you are finally listening? There is something you need to understand before this story unfolds. Not every battle is loud. Not every rescue looks heroic. Some of the greatest acts of love happen in complete silence, hidden beneath ordinary moments that seem meaningless until everything suddenly makes sense. You have lived through moments that should have broken you. You have escaped situations you still cannot explain. And somewhere deep inside, a question has never stopped whispering to you. Why? That question is not random. It has been waiting for this very moment because the answer has been waiting for you. Someone has been standing between you and a danger you never fully recognized. Someone whose heart has been connected to yours long before your paths ever crossed. The strange part is they may not even know they are doing it consciously. Their soul remembers something their mind has forgotten. Their spirit recognizes your future before their eyes ever see your face. And because of that invisible connection, they have been fighting a battle you never knew existed, while one mysterious name continues to grow darker every single day. You have probably seen signs already. Maybe a certain song plays whenever you feel lost. Maybe the same numbers keep following you wherever you go. Maybe you keep waking up at the exact same hour, wondering why sleep suddenly disappears as if someone gently called your name from another room. These moments are not trying to frighten you, they are trying to wake you. Because the closer destiny comes, the louder the unseen world becomes. And right now, something extraordinary is happening around your life that you cannot afford to ignore, because someone else already has. Think about the people who entered your life unexpectedly. Some stayed, some disappeared, some left wounds that took years to heal. But one person never completely left your thoughts, even if you barely knew them. Their memory appears without warning. Their face returns in moments of silence. Sometimes you wonder why someone you hardly understand still occupies space inside your heart. It is because your story with them never truly ended, it simply paused. And while you believed time had moved on, something far greater continued moving beneath the surface, preparing a reunion neither of you could force, because another presence was trying to stop it. That presence wears an ordinary face, nothing about them seems unusual. People trust them, people laugh with them, people speak their name without hesitation. But beneath the surface exists something impossible to explain through logic alone. Not every person who smiles wishes you well. Not every hand that reaches toward you wants to help. Sometimes danger hides behind familiarity because that is where it can remain unseen the longest. Your soulmate sensed this before you ever did. not because they heard rumors, not because someone warned them. Because souls recognize danger in ways human eyes cannot, without realizing why, they began pulling away from certain places, they changed plans at the last second, they hesitated before saying yes to opportunities that somehow involved the same mysterious person again and again. Even they could not explain their actions. Yet every strange decision brought them one step closer to protecting your future. While the mystery surrounding one specific name became impossible to ignore, here is where everything becomes even stranger. The person trying to protect you has probably questioned themselves countless times. They wondered why they suddenly felt anxious, why certain conversations left them emotionally exhausted, why they could never fully trust someone everyone else admired. They blamed themselves for being too sensitive, too emotional, too cautious. But sensitivity is not weakness when truth hides beneath appearances. Sometimes sensitivity is the first language destiny speaks. And your soulmate has been listening without realizing they were hearing your future calling through them. Meanwhile, your own life has been filled with interruptions. Plans that suddenly collapsed, relationships that unexpectedly ended, opportunities that vanished just before becoming real. You called them disappointments, you called them bad timing, you called them bad luck, but what if every closed door was actually another shield? What if every painful ending prevented something far more devastating from beginning? The answers are closer than you think, yet they reveal something your heart has been afraid to accept. There is one detail that changes everything. The mysterious man does not necessarily arrive looking dangerous. In fact, he often appears exactly when you feel vulnerable, exactly when you need advice, exactly when loneliness makes almost any attention feel comforting. That is why recognizing him has always been difficult. Darkness rarely announces itself, it usually introduces itself as comfort first. Your soulmate felt that contradiction immediately, a smile that seemed too perfect, words that sounded rehearsed, promises that somehow left an uneasy silence behind them. None of it made logical sense, yet their spirit refused to ignore what their eyes could not prove. Have you ever walked into a room and instantly felt uncomfortable without knowing why? That feeling matters. Have you ever met someone who appeared kind while something inside whispered, "Be careful"? That whisper matters. Have you ever ignored that inner voice only to regret it later? That memory matters even more, because your soul has always known how to survive. The problem is that your mind keeps convincing you not to trust what your spirit already understands. That conflict has delayed answers for far too long. But something is changing now. The signs are becoming impossible to overlook. Conversations suddenly reveal hidden meanings. Old memories return carrying completely different emotions. People you trusted begin showing sides of themselves you never imagined. Even silence feels different, almost as if the universe itself has stopped holding its breath, waiting for you to notice what has been standing in front of you all along. Your soulmate feels it too, without speaking to you, without standing beside you, without knowing where you are. Their heart has become restless, not because they are afraid for themselves, because somewhere deep inside, they know your paths are approaching the moment everything changes. They cannot explain why hope suddenly feels stronger than fear. They simply know waiting is almost over. Yet destiny always tests faith before revealing truth. One final obstacle remains. One final illusion must fall apart. One final name refuses to disappear. And every time that name returns, the atmosphere changes. Conversations become heavier. Decisions become more difficult. Peace becomes strangely harder to find. It is not coincidence. Patterns exist for those willing to see them. That is why this moment feels different from every moment before it. You are no longer reading random words. You are noticing connections your heart has quietly collected for years. The missing pieces have always been scattered around your life. Now they are beginning to move toward each other, slowly, carefully, unavoidably. Soon, someone will say something that changes how you remember your past. Soon, an unexpected meeting will make years of confusion suddenly feel meaningful. Soon, the truth about who genuinely protected you will leave you speechless. But before that truth arrives, one final revelation waits in the shadows. It is connected to the man everyone overlooked. It is connected to a decision you almost made. It is connected to a warning you nearly ignored forever. And when you finally discover whose name has been quietly appearing behind every unanswered question, you may realize that your soulmate did not simply protect your heart. They protected your entire future. The only question left is whether you will recognize the name before destiny forces the truth into the light, or whether the next time it appears, it will already be too late. Your heart has carried questions that never seemed to belong to this lifetime. Questions that appeared without warning whenever you stood at the edge of a new beginning. Why did that opportunity disappear overnight? Why did that relationship collapse when it seemed so promising? Why did someone you trusted suddenly become distant just before your life took an unexpected turn? You searched for logical answers because that is what the world taught you to do. Yet logic has never been able to explain the invisible moments that quietly redirected your path. Those moments were never accidents, and the closer you come to discovering why, the more everything begins to connect. There is a memory you almost forgot. It seemed so ordinary that you buried it beneath years of louder experiences. A conversation that ended strangely. A person who looked at you with an expression you could never fully understand. A warning someone casually spoke before quickly changing the subject. At the time it felt meaningless. But memories have a mysterious way of returning only when they are finally ready to reveal their true purpose. This one has been waiting for today because it contains a clue your future desperately needs. The strange thing about destiny is that it rarely speaks through dramatic miracles. More often, it whispers through patterns. The same lesson repeated by different people. The same uncomfortable feeling before making an important decision. The same mysterious hesitation that arrives moments before saying yes to something that later proves dangerous. You thought those repeated experiences were bad luck. In reality, they were becoming louder because you were getting closer to the truth, and truth always finds a way to reach the person willing to listen. Meanwhile, somewhere not far from your story, another heart has been carrying a burden it cannot explain. Your soulmate has experienced nights filled with restless thoughts. They have stared at the ceiling wondering why someone they have not even fully met keeps appearing in their spirit. There are moments when they suddenly feel overwhelming concern without knowing who it is for. Friends tell them to stop overthinking. Family tells them they worry too much. Yet deep inside, they know this feeling belongs to something much greater than anxiety. It belongs to a promise made long before either of you understood what love truly meant. Every promise attracts opposition. That is a truth very few people recognize until they have lived through it. The brighter the future waiting ahead, the greater the effort to distract you from reaching it. Sometimes those distractions arrive as opportunities that seem perfect. Sometimes they arrive disguised as friendships. Sometimes they arrive through someone who says exactly what you long to hear. That is why appearances can become so dangerous. The most convincing illusion is often built from pieces of truth mixed with carefully hidden deception. You may already know the man without realizing his importance. Perhaps he entered your life briefly before disappearing. Perhaps he still exists somewhere within your circle. Perhaps his name appears occasionally in conversations that seem completely unrelated. Every time that name surfaces, something inside you shifts ever so slightly. It is subtle enough to ignore but powerful enough to leave a lasting impression. Your spirit notices what your conscious mind overlooks, and it has been trying to pull your attention toward that name for far longer than you realize. What makes this even more astonishing is that your soulmate noticed the same energy without ever comparing experiences with you. Imagine that, two people separated by distance, separated by time, separated by circumstances, yet both responding to the exact same unseen warning. Neither understands why, neither can explain it, but both continue moving according to invisible guidance they cannot deny. That is not coincidence, that is the language of connected souls. There were moments when your protector almost gave up. They questioned every instinct. They considered ignoring the uneasy feeling because everyone else seemed comfortable. They wondered if they were simply imagining problems that did not exist. But every time they tried to silence that inner voice, another sign appeared. Another unexpected interruption. Another strange coincidence impossible to dismiss. Eventually they stopped asking whether the warning was real. They began asking who it was meant to protect. The answer has always been you, not because you are perfect, not because you have never made mistakes, but because your future still carries something unfinished. There are lives you have not yet touched, people you have not yet encouraged, dreams you have not yet awakened, love you have not yet received. If your story had ended too soon, countless other stories would have remained incomplete. That is why unseen protection surrounded you even during seasons when you believed you had been completely abandoned. Think back to the hardest year of your life, the year when nothing seemed to make sense, the year when every prayer felt unanswered, the year when silence became louder than hope. You thought heaven had forgotten you. But what if that painful silence was actually filled with unseen activity? What if while you cried over closed doors, forces beyond your understanding were quietly preventing a disaster you never knew existed? Sometimes the greatest miracle is not receiving what you desperately wanted. Sometimes the greatest miracle is being kept away from what would have destroyed everything. Your soulmate carries that miracle within them, even before meeting you completely. They became part of your protection. Every unexpected delay, every postponed plan, every cancelled meeting, every last-minute change, each one became another thread woven into a future neither of you could yet see. Only now are those threads beginning to form a picture beautiful enough to understand. Yet one mystery still refuses to disappear: the name, that single name. It lingers at the edge of your awareness like a shadow waiting for sunrise. You may think you already know who it is, you may even be completely convinced, but destiny has one final surprise prepared, because the greatest shock is not the name itself. The greatest shock is discovering how close that person came to changing the course of your entire life. Very soon, someone will unintentionally reveal information they never meant to share. A conversation you almost ignore will suddenly capture your full attention. An old message, forgotten photograph, or unexpected encounter will connect pieces that have remained scattered for years. When that happens, your heartbeat will change, not because of fear, because recognition feels different. Recognition carries peace even while exposing painful truths, and when you finally recognize what has been hidden in plain sight, you will understand why every delay, every disappointment, every unanswered question, and every mysterious warning was preparing you for one unforgettable moment. The moment your soulmate finally looks into your eyes and quietly says something so simple, yet so impossible to dismiss: "I've been trying to find you," but neither of you will realize that those words arrive only hours after the mysterious man makes one final move, a move that will force the hidden truth into the open and reveal a connection no one saw coming. For a moment, everything becomes still. Not because the world has stopped turning, because your soul has. There comes a point in every destined journey when time itself seems to hesitate. Conversations grow quieter. Ordinary days begin carrying extraordinary weight. You cannot explain why your heart feels different. Only that something is approaching. It feels like standing on the shore before a storm, not a storm meant to destroy you, but one meant to wash away every illusion you have been carrying. Deep inside, you sense that after this moment, your life will never return to what it once was, and that realization alone changes everything. The mysterious man feels it too. He cannot explain why the things that once worked so easily are no longer working. His influence begins to weaken in ways even he does not understand. Doors that used to open effortlessly now remain shut. People who once believed every word he spoke begin asking questions they never asked before. Tiny cracks begin forming in the image he spent so long creating. And with every passing day, those cracks grow wider. He does not know that truth has already begun moving toward him, carrying a light no deception can survive. Your soulmate notices another change. The restless nights become more intense, dreams become unusually vivid. They wake with emotions they cannot name, as if they had spent the entire night searching for someone whose face still remains hidden. Throughout the day, familiar places suddenly feel unfamiliar. They pause in the middle of ordinary conversations because something invisible keeps pulling at their attention. Friends ask if everything is all right. They smile. They say they are simply tired, but they know that answer is not true. Their heart is remembering someone it has not fully met, and the closer destiny draws near, the harder it becomes to ignore that impossible feeling. At the same time, your own life begins changing in subtle ways. You start questioning people you once trusted without hesitation. You become less willing to settle for shallow conversations. Things that once excited you suddenly feel empty. It almost feels as though your spirit is cleaning house before an honored guest arrives. Old fears begin leaving. Old habits lose their grip. Even your loneliness begins changing. Instead of feeling abandoned, you begin sensing that your waiting has a purpose you simply have not understood yet. That purpose has been unfolding for far longer than you realize. Years ago, when you thought your greatest heartbreak had ruined everything, another path quietly opened beyond your sight. When someone betrayed your trust, another lesson quietly strengthened your discernment. When opportunities disappeared, something greater was already being prepared beyond the horizon. You never saw those unseen victories because pain has a way of narrowing your vision, but destiny never stopped working, not for a single day, not for a single hour, not even during the moments when you believed hope itself had abandoned your name. Then something unexpected happens. A name you have not heard in a very long time suddenly returns. You hear it in passing, you see it written somewhere, perhaps it appears on your phone, perhaps someone casually mentions it during a conversation that seems completely unrelated. The instant you hear that name, an unusual silence settles over your thoughts. It lasts only a few seconds, yet those few seconds feel strangely significant. Your heart reacts before your mind can understand why. That reaction is not random. It is recognition, not recognition of a face.